Welcome back to Check Out the Stat by your girl Treasure Wilson, aka Stat Baby. Okay, y'all. First of all, TCU women's basketball is in shambles, and Jonathan Major's got a lot going on. But before we get into any of that, let me introduce my guest, who is my Superwoman of the Week. Briana McDonald is a digital media coordinator for the San Francisco 49ers. She grew up in the Bay and is a graduate from the University of Miami. She writes articles, hosts a football podcast, interviews players, and so much more. So today, she sat down with me to choose her pick on the 49ers versus Packers game and give insight into her day-to-day life and interactions with players. Introducing Briana. So now we're joined with special guest Briana McDonald. How are you today?
Hey, what's up? I'm doing good. How are you, Treasure?
Good. I'm good. Glad to have you on the show. So before we even get into your background and what you're about, I know people are dying to know, right? This weekend is the 49ers versus Packers game. Who do you think is going to win?
Who do I think is going to win?
Yes.
I can't not choose the San Francisco 49ers in this one. This is my team. Right. But I mean, going into this contest, we're the #1 seed. And so expectations are high. And I think the talk around this game has been like rest versus rest. We got that bye week, but the Packers have the hot hand going into this one. They've been playing playoff level football for like 5 weeks now heading into this matchup. Jordan Love under center, under Matt LaFleur's scheme, and all his offensive weapons, the elite offensive line. Like, it's going to be a competitive matchup, but at the end of the day, I can't not choose my own team, the Niners, for sure.
That makes sense. It's actually funny that you say that because it's like the 49ers was one of my top picks throughout the past couple of weeks, but I was like, something tells me, we'll see, the Packers might be the one to get it done. So as soon as the game is over, I'm definitely going to come back and look at this clip and see whose prediction was correct, because I think it'll be funny to compare. But okay.
Yeah, so I have to stay faithful. Yeah. Oh, go for it.
Yeah, of course. So moving along, obviously you're in the sports industry. Where are you from? And then did football always make an impact on your life? Did you grow into it? Where did that kind of stem from?
Well, I'm originally from the Bay Area. So the 49ers have been my team pretty much since I was born. And because of that, yes, I've always been into football. My family grew up a football family. Football was the only thing on TV growing up. I mean, we didn't really have cable. So it was just like Sunday night football, Monday night football, Thursday night football, whatever college football was on air on Saturdays. Like, it was pretty much only football. I didn't even grow up really watching movies or anything. And so growing up into it, that was my cinema, was football. And so I was a huge fan. I would go to all the Candlestick Park games in San Francisco. And then it's been a dream now working for that team that I used to cheer for growing up. Yeah, it's been football and Niners all the way.
That's super dope, especially being able to see the progress the team has made. Like, this is like, not like, obviously you can never say like, this is the perfect time, but it really is the perfect time. So like, it's probably a very special moment for you, which is super, super dope. Okay. So
absolutely.
For those who don't know, you went to the University of Miami. Do you think having a college education made an impact on your career choices and helped to where you are now?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, going to college has been a huge emphasis on my life ever since I grew up, because I come from an immigrant family. My dad's originally from Nicaragua. And so coming here as a first generation, they're like, okay, going to college is a must for you. So I'm a first generation college student, and it's been weighing on me, especially as like the oldest daughter in my family is like, got to get to college. I was one of the first to go to college in my family. And so that's been a huge emphasis on my life. And I've been doing college prep classes, I think, since I was in middle school, just grinding into me, like, where am I going to go to college, what I'm going to study. And I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I knew I had to go to college as sort of like a family expectation. And also for myself, I wanted to have that honor. But I was never great at like, it wasn't into science. I'm not a STEM girly. Writing, I guess, was the class that I liked to take, or English. And so when I was in those college prep classes, they're going to be like, what would you want to major in? And I was like, I have no idea. There's nothing that I'm really drawn to. And so they asked me, okay, well, what do you like? And I was like, I like watching football. This is what I grew up on. And so ever since that moment where I had to see what I like to do and what I would want to do in my career, that something I would enjoy, I would watch the football games and see where I saw women in the sport. And of course, it was Erin Andrews, Pam Oliver on the sideline. I was like, okay, well, I see girls doing that. Maybe I'll give that a shot. And so I tried to see which universities had a broadcast journalism program or maybe like a sports administration program. And then that's where Miami came in because they had both. And I was able to do both at the same time. And so it's had a huge impact on my career. And I highly recommend you. I know Treasure, you also went to the U. So for anyone interested in sports broadcast or just the sports administration side or broadcast journalism side, University of Miami has been a huge help in my life, especially in my career.
See, I agree. Shout out Miami. So for those watching, I'm not going to force and be like, you need to go to college, but it definitely is a great experience. And even though we had different experiences, right? What do you felt like was that moment when you were like, okay, I'm doing the right thing? Like college is working out for me. And then the sports, I'm being able to merge the two. Like, was there a moment or like maybe a class project that you did that was like, okay, this is for me?
That's tough. I'm not going to lie because I'm sure a lot of other people deal with this, but you get a little bit of imposter syndrome, especially as a first generation college student or a woman working in the sports industry. You could feel that a lot of times. And so sometimes you're like, how do I navigate this? How do I work through these situations? I'm just going to grind until I get there. That was a little bit of my mindset working through college. And sometimes I feel that even to this day. But I think I got reassurance when I was working in I think a sports reporting class with Professor Michelle Kaufman, who works for the Miami Herald. And the assignments she would put us on, they were real life projects. We were in press conferences for major sports in the Miami area, talking directly with coaches and players, and working on projects in her class definitely gave me a boost of confidence. And she elevated my writing levels to a completely, I don't know, I don't want to say elite status because I'm not even there yet, but she improved my game a lot.
Super, super dope. So now you're working digital media for the 49ers, right? I can only assume your schedule is crazy. What is your day-to-day activities like? How can you kind of walk us through when you start your day to your end?
Sure. Not every single day looks the same, but something I'd like to tell people when they ask me that is like, if you think of an NFL player schedule, that's a little bit of what my schedule reflects because I kind of just follow what they're on. But a typical day, I'll pick, say, like a Wednesday. That's like a regular day during the week. So on a Wednesday for me, I will wake up pretty early, wake up at like 5 or 6, depending on if I'm going to the gym in the morning or at night, because I try to squeeze it in somewhere. But wake up early, try to work out, try to read my word. And then I start researching talking points for a podcast that I host. It's called First and 10 with the 49ers Podcast Network. So I'll do some research, what's been happening at practice, what are the talking points I wanted to talk through in the podcast, and I'll outline those. And then I'll record my podcast between 8 and 9 in the morning with our team reporter, Lindsay Polares, and we'll have special guests on throughout the week. Chat some 49ers football for 10 minutes, download that, edit it, publish it, promote it everywhere I can, write an article about it. That podcast also goes on YouTube. So I'm just doing a lot. I'm recording, editing, publishing, and that's just my morning. After I publish the podcast episode, I drive to Levi Stadium. That's where my office is. And I'll watch practices or I'll go to press conferences. And around that time is media availability. So I'll go in the locker room, get whatever content I need to for 49ers.com and the 49ers YouTube channel. Once that's over, head up to my desk while the players are practicing or they have more media they've got to do. And I'm at my desk and I'm covering content for 49ers.com. So articles, any other podcasts we have to promote, or we have really cool video series on the 49ers YouTube channel that you could check out. So publishing all the content that goes out throughout the week. And then from there, I head home. I try to rest as much as I can, and then it starts again the next day. And it's sort of a cycle. That's a little bit of what the average day looks like as we lead up to game day. Game day is a whole nother beast. It's a little crazier on game day, but that cycle repeats hopefully until February 11th, crossing my fingers.
Yeah, that sounds, I know for people watching, they're probably like, How does she manage to do that in a day? And guys, this is why Bri is my Superwoman of the Week, because y'all, it's not easy doing all these tasks, but she gets it done. And definitely make sure you guys check out her podcast, her articles, Briana McDonald, 49ers. You guys will find it. Okay, so on your Instagram, I know you make a lot of social content interacting with players. Do you ever feel intimidated when speaking to these players?
Um, Intimidated, I guess a little bit in the beginning when I was starting out, because when you go into the locker room, the guys are sort of in their own bubble. They're either eating their lunch, they're on FaceTime with someone, they have their headphones on listening to their music, or they're on their way to the showers. So it's a little bit intimidating when you don't know them and you have to go up to them for the first time and ask them whatever you're asking for your content. And so that was intimidating at first. But I think what's really important is establishing relationships with the guys. And so I'll see them at a lot of community events that we do with our team and make sure to form that connection with them then. And then seeing them in the locker room, it's just a built up trust between each other so that when I do approach them, it's much easier. It's just like approaching your friend, a colleague, a coworker. It's sort of the same in that way. But at the beginning, yes. As of now, not so much because they're all my homies.
That's super, super dope. So since they're your homies, do you have like a funny story that you can share, like a player interaction that you remember that was like, oh, okay, random or real funny?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when you think of funny stories in the 49ers locker room, I'm sure the first name that comes to mind is George Kittle. And that's completely correct. I think it was last season, I was doing a George Kittle impersonations video for National Tight Ends Day, asking around the locker room guys to impersonate George Kittle, all his mannerisms and all the crazy antics he's up to throughout the NFL season. But I wanted to go up to him and have him show off all his signature moves. And before we got started, like the camera was getting set up, we were making sure the mics worked, and I don't know. This hasn't happened to me since I was in high school, but he necked me. Like I was like, I was testing my mic.
Next me,
and he necked me. I was like, "Are we in middle school?" And so I looked at him. It's because he went like this, or went like this. I forgot. But and I looked at it and he necked me. And he's like, "You looked, so I had to neck you." I was like, "Okay." Now next time, I've actually been like waiting to see the perfect moment to do it. I think he's probably forgotten by now. But I'm gonna go to him and hit him with one of these to see if I can neck him back.
Yeah, George, watch out because Briana is coming for you, and I cannot wait because that'll be so funny. So funny. Okay, so in between game day, interviewing players, probably doing things on the road, what do you feel like is the most exciting part about your job?
The most exciting part about my job, man, that's so tough because there's so many different aspects of it. I love working on the team side because all the employees, like our whole design team, the podcast team, our studios team, it's like we're playing the game. We're so invested in it. And we see these guys every day. We're out there with them at practice. We're in the locker room with them. And so when they win, it feels like we're winning. But I think my favorite part of this, the most rewarding part, is putting a spotlight on what the players like to do off the field, because they're more than just athletes. And that's sort of the story I want to tell. What are their interests that go beyond the field? What's their story that got them to the NFL level? And so we do these player features on 49ers.com where I've gotten to talk with Brandon Ayuk and his hobby of photography, or Cleveland Furl and his like pre-game movie superstition. Whatever quirks the guys have or whatever their interests are off the field, I like to connect with them and learn more about those and try to give fans more of an insight to the players' lives, because they see what they could do on the field. It's out there every Sunday. The guys are killing it. And so just making the fans feel more connected to the team that they love.
See, that's super cool. And this is your journalism peeking through, because you're like, there's more to the story. And I love that, because that's kind of what gives us that little inside peek into who these players are, aside from just football players. Okay, so there's a big Niners culture, right? What do you feel like sets the 49ers apart from other teams?
Man, that's a good question. I think when it comes to the level of play on the field, I mean, our roster is stacked, first of all. We probably have the most guys in the NFL who've got Pro Bowl, All Pro honors. So these guys even though we have so many elite players on our team and the roster is stacked, I think the it factor for this team is that they're so selfless. They constantly think about other people. I heard someone say that like Deebo Samuel is one of the best defensive players on the team, and it's because of the way that he blocks and paves the way for his fellow receivers to get through. Where Brandon Ayuk, the same thing, he's making a block for Christian McCaffrey to make a touchdown. And so these guys, they care more about the team over their personal stats, their personal accolades. And on the way, they get those personal accolades. So I think just the selflessness of this team and how much they look out for each other and the chemistry in the locker room, it's nothing like I've ever seen before.
Love that. Okay, so in summary of everything, right? I know that there's probably some women looking into this who are probably scared to take foot into the sports industry, right? Obviously, there's males watching too. Shout out the guys. But like, what advice would you give to those women who want to start getting into the workforce of this industry, but don't know where or how, and need just a little bit of advice?
There's just space for everyone. And I think that you can get started at any level. We started in UM. You probably started before, I'm sure, but start at college, start at your high school level, start at Pop Warner, talk about Little League, talk about high school athletics, talk about women's sports. That needs a lot of coverage. So wherever you see an area where there's an opportunity for you, I think no opportunity is too small. So take advantage of that and you could just build your way on up from there. But yeah, if you see something and you have a group surrounding you that empowers you, and I think you should just go for it. But have confidence in yourself and have confidence in your voice.
See, I agree. You definitely got to be your biggest cheerleader. And I feel like it's also never too late to start, because I started in college and like we were doing projects for our teachers. Like we didn't have places to submit it. It was like, this is what we're passionate about. We're going to pick up the camera. We're going to go record and make a story out of it. So that's really important. Just being true to you and then putting your work out there, regardless of who's going to see it. Because I think the only people who saw our projects to start was like our classmates, our teachers. So, and that's okay, guys.
Exactly.
That's okay. We all got to get there somehow. Okay.
Yeah, it could be a little nerve-wracking at first to post something for the first time or to pick up the camera and like do man on the street interviews for the first time. But I think just go for it. It's fun and you're going to be proud of yourself looking back on the project.
Definitely. I agree. And then last question before we wrap, my show is all about women empowerment. Is there any woman out there that you want to shout out or that you want to kind of bring light to or that you look up to?
Yes, absolutely. I love this. I have to give my flowers to Miss Kiana Martin. She works for CBS Sports now, but she used to be the team reporter for the San Francisco 49ers. And she's who I looked up to as I was making my way into the sports industry. And she's the one who helped me get to this position. She vouched for me when I was applying and I interviewed with her. And so she's been my role model since I was in university, and she still is my role model. And not only is she so successful in the sports industry and so intelligent, but she has such a kind heart. And I can go to her for, I feel like, everything and anything. So I give my flowers to Miss Kiana Martin. She's amazing. You guys should check her out. She's on CBS Sports right now.
See, that's super dope. Bree, thanks so much for joining the interview today. Where can people follow you and then catch up on your work?
Yeah, sure. You could follow me on all social media platforms at Briana McDonald TV. I think that's Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. And then check out the 49ers podcast, First and 10. It airs every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And there's breaking news episodes after games. So hopefully there'll be a breaking news episode after this Saturday. But yeah, check it all out.
See, super dope. Bree, thanks so much for joining. I appreciate you a lot and keep killing it, because I see all your stuff and I get so excited watching it, because there's not many of us in the industry. And I love seeing that, like, we're starting to, I'm not going to say take over yet, but we getting there. We're really getting there. And I love
for sure.
It's super, super dope. Okay.
For sure. Thank you so much, Treasure.
Of course. We're going to go to break and then I'll see y'all back in the studio and then we'll talk about what's going on in women's sports.
She called this thing about toxic. 4 years and counting. Got you feeling like an option. Maybe I'm my own problem, babe. She tired of hearing I don't know. What's happening me won't fall, dealing with this thing called trust. But she really thinking about it, wanna be free. Why am I here? This woman wanna be free. Hell, I don't wanna see her walk away. I wish somebody told me the rules. Disagreements let her win, and it's cool. Even when I'm right, this ain't about.
Welcome back. So a huge headline in women's sports is TCU. TCU's women's basketball team is going through it. They're holding open tryouts mid-season because they don't have enough healthy players to play. I don't even think I've seen something like this happen before, but this is somebody's time to shine. There are 14 girls on the roster, but only 6 would have been able to play. And 2 of the players, so 2 of those 6, just came back from recent injuries. The issue was so big, it didn't just come down to holding open tryouts. They had to forfeit 2 of their games. So one of their games was against Kansas State, and another was against Iowa State. So what does that mean for the other teams? Iowa State and Kansas State both get an automatic win, while TCU gets 2 losses. TCU hasn't made an NCAA tournament since 2010, and it looked like this could have been the start. In the Big 12, at the beginning of the season, they were off to a 14-0 start, which is pretty good if you ask me. But it looks like 2024 has not been their year. Since January 3rd, when they came back from break, they've been on a 4-game losing streak. They're currently 12th in the Big 12. Now, right now, who has the top spot is Kansas State. They have first place in the Big 12. So in hopes to turn things around, they're holding their open tryouts in the middle of the season. And so for walk-ons, of course, this is a huge opportunity. Because if they get some players who are really ready to lock in and they're nice, this will be a crazy storyline. Imagine that. Half of the team has gone off of injuries. You have team tryouts, walk-ons who are busting ass, and then they get back to first place. To me, it sounds like a Netflix movie in itself, but we'll see what happens. But if they don't get that and they don't get the positive end of the stick, it's going to be a real long season ahead of them. Okay, now we're going to get into Ain't No Way, where we talk about the crazy things that have happened this week. Y'all, ain't no way Jonathan Majors told his white ex to act like Coretta Scott King. So look, y'all, I'm just going to state the facts, and then y'all can come to me with the conclusion that you have. I did ask some of you guys' answers. Before we get into y'all's answers, let me explain to y'all the story. So for those who don't know, Jonathan Majors used to date a white woman named Grace Jabari who accused him of assault. They met while Grace was his movement coach on the set of Ant-Man and the Wasp. Everything was fine and dandy. Everything was good until it wasn't, which, happens in most relationships. It's good till it's not. So according to the criminal complaint, Majors hit Jabari's face, twisted her arm, and fractured her finger during a fight. There was some video evidence in between of an altercation outside involving a car, a lot of different things, but this was what was in the complaint. So Jonathan Majors' defense had accused Jabari of engaging in cruel and manipulative patterns of psychological and physical abuse. So there's a lot of things that happen in between, right? She found out that Majors was cheating on her, so people think that she did it out of jealousy and then lied about what happened to authorities. In the case, they also accused Jabari, the woman, of faking her injuries because she was seen clubbing shortly after. Now, everybody has different varying opinions on that. I don't have specific opinions on that because I don't know exactly what happened. I wasn't there, but I'm reading y'all what happened, okay? So there's more details to the case, but after Majors was convicted of assault and harassment, and as a result, Marvel dropped him from the lead role of Kang. The incident happened back last year, but Megan Good and Jonathan started dating not long after. So during the case, you see her and Jonathan Majors entering, into the case together. She's standing next to him side by side. So now that the trial is done, Majors just recently had an interview and spoke out for the first time. And he talked about his relationship with Megan Good and how she's been there for him throughout the entire time. He said, "She's an angel. She's held me down like a Coretta," obviously referencing MLK Jr.'s wife. So here's the real catch, right? He just called Megan Good his Coretta, but previously in his relationship with Jabari, his white ex, he had told her to act like Coretta Scott King and Michelle Obama, according to audio of him that has since leaked. So he said that he wanted her to hold him down the way they held down their husbands during adversity. So to me, that's already weird because if I'm in her situation, right, regardless of who I am, why are you telling me to hold you down like Coretta Scott King? Like, why is that your only analogy? And then speaking of Megan Good, when you're talking about her in a positive light, why are you referencing her to Coretta Scott King? Again, like, first of all, there's nobody else that you can reference. That's the only example that you have. And then how the heck are you going to tell Miss Jabari to act like Coretta Scott King? Because that is not her. She can't act like her, and Megan Good is going to act like her. So I just don't understand what he really expected. And honestly, I just think he needs to leave Miss Coretta out of the situation because asking one woman to act like a completely different woman doesn't make any sense. Because to me, I think people just be saying anything. So after everything, after the case, after, all the social media turmoil, Majors was found guilty of 1 count of misdemeanor, 3rd-degree assault, and 1 count of 2nd-degree harassment. But he was acquitted from 2 other counts of assault and aggravated harassment. Now, if you saw the Cat Williams interview, he thinks that Megan Good played a huge part in this. He says Megan Good cut it in half, which could have been the case. I mean, she was holding him down during the whole time, but to me, a lot of things still just don't make sense. But y'all, I stated the facts. I really want to know what y'all have to say about it. So I asked. So somebody said, and I'm going to just read the responses. I have some opinions, but not too much. Somebody said Johnny Depp's ex doesn't get cut from DC, but he's cut from Marvel. And then they said they ain't drop Amber after the courts found her guilty and that business is business. Okay, y'all have a lot more responses that I can't even share because y'all, we're going to keep this real PG. But y'all definitely felt some type of way about it. And I understand because the whole case to me sounds crazy. And I wonder what's going to happen next. And people are wondering, is Megan Good going to stay? Is she going to leave? I personally think right now in this moment to, hold him down and then leave would be kind of insane. But 2024 is already off to an insane start. So to me, anything is possible. But that's it for today's episode. Y'all can hashtag check out the stats so we can continue the discussion next week. And maybe your question or take will be featured. Thanks for hanging out with me and checking out the stats. I'll see y'all next week.
Two big necks, like when they doing them 2 for $5.